things. And that's what he was talking about. Ordinary people. So for today, as you already know, we're going to be talking about mental health through journaling. And really, with the pressure that we have these days to make multiple sources of income and to be great and all those other things, we tend to forget that our main switch is from our mental health. And if there's something wrong with that, and then we might not be able to see the world and the beautiful perspectives that we have, which is why the best speaker for today that we could ever have to help us understand and see from that light of mental health would be who I'm about to call and to come talk about the session today. Please welcome Amina Maikori. Oh, we can't hear you. I think you're still muted.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, great. Hi, thank you for joining in, and thank you, Aim, for having me on this wonderful event. We don't have much time, so let me just get right into it. We're all here to talk about mental health. I know it's a reality, not just for us Nigerians. In fact, we Nigerians came to this table later on in life. You know, it was a thing of embarrassment. People were ashamed to talk about it. But now we talk about it more freely. And I think COVID-19 helped to make that happen. So maybe that's one good thing that came out of it. So you may feel that you don't have a mental health challenge, but in most cases, most of us do. We're in a society where, like Ife has mentioned, so many things happen. There's so much frustration. There's so much anxiety. Before we started taking cognizance of what is wrong with us, we thought it was something you should just keep to yourself and it will pass over. And instead of dealing with it, normally what we do is a form of escapism. And you know what I'm talking about. When you watch 7 seasons of Game of Thrones, or you watch your favorite series back to back to back, or you start with music, because music has a way of making you feel better. You're not dealing with what is at hand. But then over the years, some people who are, well-to-do, who travel abroad, realize that they can work with psychologists. And in this 2022, psychologists aren't that cheap. If you decide you're going abroad to work with a psychologist, you'll be frustrated because there's a long line of people waiting to talk to psychologists. They have more problems, you'll be surprised to find out, than we do down here. So how do we deal with it? I can't probably afford a psychologist, an everyday person, and I can't go abroad to talk to a psychologist. And even if I go abroad, I may not have access to them. So what do I do? And that's where journaling comes in. Well, what is journaling? Journaling, yes, it's writing things down, but honest to God, is a conversation with yourself. It's the opportunity to bring out from your mind what is there. I talked about escapism, and escapism is not just about watching TV or listening to music. It's also when you hang out with friends and talk about something else, or when you go for parties consistently, when you feel uncomfortable to sit in one place just with your thoughts. That is escapism. But journaling helps you to capture those thoughts. And at the end of today, I would like us to do an exercise where you can capture your thoughts easily. It's expansive, but that's what I would like to leave you with today. Tools to have that conversation with yourself. I call it the mindfulness exercise. So let me go through this. So I talked about everybody having some form of mental health challenge, and it's simple. There are two types and two reasons why you have mental health challenges. It could be situational. It could also be biological, meaning that there may be some chemical imbalances in your system that make you either sad or not able to function in the way normal people function. And there's nothing wrong with that. In the case of situational, when you suffer a loss, you lose your job, or things don't quite pan out the way you wanted it to pan out, that is situational. And it leads to anxiety, it leads to disillusionment, it leads to sadness. And if you do not sort it out, that is when it transcends to depression. So you see there are several steps. And the difference between sadness is that you're sad for a while, you lost somebody, you're sad, it's a season you're going to go through and you deal with it. When you don't deal with it, it becomes worse. Then there's the issue of disillusionment. And that comes when you try things several times and they don't seem to work out. And you get to a point where you're like, you know what, I'm useless, or this is a useless situation, there's no hope here, and then you're kind of like, you have no will to live. But if you find new things to do with yourself, you will rediscover that will. Now, it gets to depression, which is all these things together, but you didn't sort it out. We're being escapists, stuffing with television, stuffing with this, stuffing with that. Let me give an example of Robin Williams, right? I don't know anything about how it worked out for him. I don't know how he discovered he had a mental health issue, right? But all of us in society looked at him as a funny man. He made everybody happy, but deep down, he wasn't happy. Let me give the example of Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey is famous, he's rich, he's well-to-do, but he says he's retiring from acting. I don't know for how long. I don't know whether he's ever going to come back. But this is somebody that was lucky enough to find out that all the wealth, all the fame, all the outward laughter did not make him happy, right? So the uses of journaling. So I've talked about helping you to avoid depression. Another use is memory loss, or rather getting back your memory. It helps you recapture thoughts. Like if you ask me, I remember things from when I was like 3 years old, 4. And I know it seems odd, people keep on getting shocked by it, but I do. And that is what helped me. I discovered was that I was keeping a journal from the age of 9, about 9, 10. So it was just a normal child's journal. Today in school, this person said that. And for many years, I could see where I sat in class, who sat beside me. I still remember, but not as well as like 6 years ago, So as you live through this and you document, the moment you pick up that journal, it reminds you of many things. It just brings things back. Number 2 is self-knowledge. Who am I? What do I want? Where am I going to? What excites me? What do I detest? When you know all these things, you can choose what you like and what you do not like. Then people will not bully you to making decisions they don't want to make. And a lot of us are depressed today because we made decisions based on peer pressure or based on things our parents told us we must do and we stayed there, or based on things that our friends were doing. So we're like, okay, my friend is doing this, we're close, we've been close for like 12 years. So birds of the same feather flock together. So it means I have skills in that, angle. So documenting history, which is so important to me, and I want to do more about this. It's something I've been studying for a while. But people believe that you can study your genes. You can study, you have this DNA thing that they do where you can know where your great-grandfather was or your forefathers were. Yeah, they can tell you where they may have been from, right? Someone like Johnny Depp is is from West Africa. At least part of him is from West Africa, but they don't know what country in West Africa. And so can they capture what diseases your parents had, your forefathers had? Can they capture their idiosyncrasies? Because believe it or not, your destiny is kind of, rooted in your history, your ancestry. Yeah. Because you find out you are doing the same things your grandparents did. If you trace it back, that's why you see a family of 4 generations, all doctors, because these are idiosyncrasies that become part of them. Then the next thing is stress relief. When you write, the reason why we call people to talk about our problems is that they say a problem half shared. No, a problem shared is half solved. But in most situations, especially here in Nigeria, a problem shared has been broadcast to the rest of the world. Okay, it doesn't matter where you go to, if you go to the church or even your small group, people are going to talk about it because they feel they're talking to or sharing this information with someone they trust. And that person they trust also trusts this piece of information with another person they trust. So at the end of the day, you're not sharing with one person, you're sharing with a legion, like a truckload of people, you know. But with journaling, you can actually document your thoughts. And what I do sometimes is that, of course, there are people I confide in, you know, but it's not everything you confide in people about. So what I do is that I write some of these things down and I drop it there, right? Then go back a couple of days after and look at it with fresh eyes. And the thing about journaling is that you need consistency. And this is what I'll talk about when we go through the mindfulness exercise. Then to plan your goals. This is what we've been doing. You plan your goals, you visualize what you want, what you do not want, and you put it down on a piece of paper, and then you start to plan towards it, okay? So the next thing I want to talk about is, let me give you a story or two about how journaling helped some people I worked with. I tell the story of a young boy I worked with who was selling DVDs on the streets, right? And he'd finished secondary school and he's like, you know what, Auntie, I want to study law, but here I am. And it was like his business, but he wasn't making money. When we sat down, we talked, we realized he wasn't making much profit. And he's like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a lawyer. So you see, the bridge between being a lawyer and being a person who has not finished, who has not got into the higher institution, but wants to be that. So what we did was map out what could happen, and he was able to, with some questions, document his vision, what he wanted to explore, and all of that. And he was having sleepless nights. I mean, for him to come to me and say, look, this is what I want to do. He was having sleepless nights. That's anxiety, by the way. And he wanted to do something to sort it out. And after journaling, he's still not a lawyer, by the way. He's still not a lawyer. But he works at an airline as a staff in the airline. He's now into graphic designing. And, you know, he's moved from being, I don't know, lower class to middle class, I think. You know, then somebody else I worked with had this brilliant artist, but had, what do you call that word? When you feel you're not, sorry, pardon me. When you feel that you're not good enough to be something. So she's so talented, fantastic artist, but she was so scared to go out there with her work. So we worked together for about a month. And now she's there doing her work, doing exhibitions, even teaching. And these are people I'm really proud of. Other people have been able to work out what has been bothering them through the night, because it gives you, thank you, Halima. Imposter. Sometimes these words disappear. Imposter syndrome, you know. So there's so many ways this thing works out. And I find out when you just get the first basis of this tool, it graduates to more things. I'm finding so many things I do with journaling, you know. So the next thing is stream of consciousness. Sorry, let me check my timing. Okay, still have time. Okay. So the next thing is the stream of consciousness technique. I don't know, can you go to the comments section? Does anybody have writing material? Do you have a pad, a piece of paper, and pencil or biro? Because we're going to do this practically here. Anyone? You just indicate by raising your hand or something. So I know when to start. I don't want to start without you guys being ready. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, great. Okay. So start now. Okay. So the stream of consciousness technique. Who has watched an Indian movie here? Please comment section again. Anybody watch an Indian movie? Yeah. Okay, great. Oluwakemi says, me. Muli says me. Well, you guys are Nigerians. You don't watch an Indian movie. Okay, a lot out in fellowship. I need more people. You know, we are part Indian, right? Based on their movies anyway. Okay, all right. So when you watch an Indian movie, what you notice is there's a part, especially the older ones, the part you notice where there's this old guy, it's always an old guy with this voice over sort of, and he's thinking, you know. So that is the stream of consciousness technique. And it's used in creative writing, whereby you try to capture the thoughts of the main character. Sanjay, dude, I don't even know who that is. So you try to capture Amitabh. Okay, let me see this. This is interesting. Oh, I love Amitabh. Yeah, nice movie. Okay, Bachchan. Okay, awesome. Yeah, yes. So yeah, Amitabh Bachchan does that a lot, where there's this voiceover and then things are happening around. It's usually at the sad part, and it's like they call it soliloquizing, right? But it's also the stream of consciousness technique used in creative writing. And what that does is to capture the thoughts of people, unfiltered thoughts, So when you're doing your journaling process, you use a stream of consciousness technique. It's unfiltered thoughts. Somebody I was trying to, he said, I'm not good at writing stories. I'm not good at comprehension, creative writing. I'm like, no, this is not about being a skilled writer. This is not about creative writing or comprehension. No, it isn't. It's about you bringing out your thoughts. So if you can even write your thoughts in Yoruba or Hausa or Ibibio, for instance, then you do that. It's unfiltered. So one example I like to give is, are you all ready? I need you to close your eyes. Are we ready? Please indicate you're ready because we're about to start. Raise your hand. Are we ready? Okay, Oluwakemi is ready. Ifedoyin is ready. Yes. Yes. Awesome. So I need you all to close your eyes right now. Close your eyes, get your pen ready. Think back to your, I like to use primary school. I don't know. Okay, you know what we're going to choose. We're going to go to primary 5, right? We're going to go to primary 5. And imagine you're in class and your teacher has asked you, teacher comes into class, you're silly kids, you're making noise, put your heads on the table. So go back to that class, either primary 5 or 6, the one you can remember. And then put your heads on the table because the teacher has asked you to do that. You can't talk to your seatmates. You can't talk to anyone. So do that. What are you thinking? Exactly what you're thinking. That's what I want you to put down. You can open your eyes now. What are you thinking? Unfiltered. Put it down. It could be something as silly as, oh my God, I have to go and feed my dog at home later today. Or I'm going to play 10-10 with my friends. Or I need to do my assignment, I'm tired. Or I want to buy ice cream after school. Whatever it is you're thinking, just put it down. I'm going to give 5 minutes for that. When you're done, just raise your hand so I know. So just let me repeat that again. The scenario is this: you're in primary 5 or 6, or whichever class you can remember from primary school anyway, and your teacher has told you to put your head on the table and close your eyes, all of you in class. So because of that, you can't talk with your best friend. You can't do anything. Your mind is wandering at this point. What are you thinking? Please put it down. Yes, Ifedoyin, what are you thinking as a primary 5 student in class? But remember, not just randomly playing. You are in class, and that moment where your teacher tells you to keep quiet, maybe people are making noise or something, and she tells you, keep quiet, put your heads on the locker, close your eyes. And at this point in time, you can have your little chat with your best friend. So what are you thinking? Your mind is wandering. What is your mind thinking about? Unfiltered. Remember, this is not a creative writing assignment. It's just capturing your thought. You can put it down in Yoruba or video or Hausa or Kanuri, whatever, do it. But the aim is to get where your mind is at that point in time. Anybody? I like that. I can't wait to go home. Nice one, yes. Anybody else? Anybody? Should I call names? Oh, if I don't, how my teacher is going to blame me for majority of the noise. Okay, no, at this point in time, we're not talking. You're not talking at all. That is why your mind is wandering. Because if you could talk, you'd be making noise. But you've made so much noise, and the teacher is okay. You are responsible. I get you're responsible. Okay, yeah, that works. So I get it now. Anybody else? I need 2 more people before we continue this. Anybody, please? Anyone? What are you thinking? It doesn't have to. Just put it down. We're all learning and growing, and we're just going down memory lane. We're trying to recapture our memory and see how good our memory is. Anything? Okay, it looks like I don't have anybody else. Let me go here. Halima, Shibuzo, Shoiton, I hope I pronounced that right. Amon Teshe, Muli, Halima, Esther, CHDF. Any one of you? Oh. Okay. Okay. Let me continue. Yeah. Okay. So, what were you able to remember anything? Because you're supposed to have gone back to your own primary school. Were you able to remember anything else besides what you shared with us in the chat box? Anyone? Okay, here. Okay. Tired. Oh, Halima is tired. Really? Okay. Fedwin, can you share what you remember besides what you're asked to do? Yeah.
Okay. So I remember much of the troublemaker. But I remember I used to be the noisiest kid in class.
Okay. No, it's no wonder you remember you went straight to the teacher will get in trouble because yeah, that's nice. That means your memory is quite good. It's still good. Yeah. So let me go on. So you see, what we have done is the stream of consciousness technique that helps us with mindfulness. And what is mindfulness? Mindfulness, all these things are tied up to journaling, by the way. And before I continue about mindfulness, the thing about journaling is that it's not just writing words. You could journal through art, right? You could journal through music. People like Janet Jackson say they're journaling through music, that she documents her thoughts. And if you're like me, who's following the Amanda Heard and Johnny Depp trial, you notice that I didn't bring this, but there's a part where you see Johnny Depp always scribbling in court. He's always scribbling in court, and they call it doodling, but that's a form of journaling. And most times when people sit in meetings and they do that, it's a way of relieving stress. it kind of makes you more relaxed because the human mind can't take too much information at the same time. That's the truth. We try to sit down in seminars and we stuff our heads with all kinds of things, but our our ability to take in things is quite limited. When I worked in radio, we used to produce news bulletins, and it was not more than 2 minutes. And before we read the news, when we're preparing, we say, "Give us 2 minutes, and we take you around the world," right? And they are very short texts we write for those news bulletins, and that's because the human mind can't take much. And that is why maybe you have a business page on Instagram or something, and you're trying to get people to look in. They are not there because there's so many. Willie says Amina Heard is a liar. Oh yeah, she is a liar, really. And she's disturbed mentally, sadly, and needs some healing work, psychologists to work with her. But the human mind can't take too much of this. So we get distracted easily. Social media is like we're even on to cocaine. We get distracted by so many things. You're listening to what happened to Mr. Dominic before you know they say that what's her name, Genevieve has a mental health problem. I mean, every second something else is coming. I don't stay in the limelight for too long. You have like 5 minutes, something else is going to come and take over. So our minds are going around all these things, and it's affecting us whether we like it or not. So sometimes to have a mentally fit life, you have to shut down and stay with yourself and be mindful. Now, this mindfulness thing is what these people issues. I once asked somebody, I said, well, do you ever sit down in your room and just sit down and stay with your thoughts with no music, with no TV on? And he's like, what do you want me to die? You know, like, how can I sit down with my thoughts? It's impossible. But you need to sit down with your thoughts. That's where you know what's wrong with you. Other people cannot tell you what's wrong with you. You know what is wrong with you. This human mind that we have, this brain that we have is so spectacular and we do not realize it. A lot of things we look for answers for outside is right within. But when we sit down with our journals and we're mindful and we try to use this stream of consciousness technique we just done to document our thoughts, we know what to do. We have a whole agenda. It's our manual. When you buy a television, there's a manual, right? When you buy even a car, there's a manual that comes with the car. When you buy a camera, there's a manual. Everything under the sun. Even when you buy like a new body cream, there are instructions at the back of the bottle. Use 3 times a day. Use after your bath. And this is what it will do for you. They tell you what to do. In some cases, they tell you what it's made of. So if your skin is allergic to anything like that, you avoid it. So if things like that, inanimate objects can have a manual, why do you think you do not have a manual? You do have a manual. It's all within you. And that is what your journal can help you do. So in keeping a journal, what do you guys brought like your pens and papers and you're writing things down? You have your brains, you know how to speak or think in a particular language. It doesn't have to be English. I'm sure many people think that you have to write in English to keep a journal. And if you're too lazy to write even, there are times you can keep pieces of paper, pieces of color, even pictures to document things that have happened. Have you ever looked at a picture and then suddenly remembered something and then you remember conversations that happen around that thing? Music too, when you listen to some songs, you remember, says yes, you remember things that happened. There are some songs I listen to and I remember myself as a child. There are songs I listen to that remind me of particular people. There are songs I listen to that remind me of even my school, each of my school. I mean, from primary to nursery to kindergarten. There are songs that remind me of each of them. And it's the same thing for all of us, you know. So you have what it takes. What you need is consistency. You can't journal once and say, oh, I journal today, next month again, or next year again. No, you do it every single day. Every single day, no matter how little time it can be, you can journal for just 1 minute, you know, for 2 minutes, just write down what happened. You can document your dreams too, very important. One thing you have to be sure of, you have to ensure is that you do not try to make it pretty. You don't try to use fancy words. Don't try to change anything because as it is from your brain, that's how you should transfer it to that piece of paper or even the digital platform you decide to keep your journal on. I don't know. Okay. Okay. So, you know what, I'll take questions now, right? So that I can respond to them. Yeah, I think that's it, really.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. I have my own personal questions. So
Yes.
answer your question there. Uh, First of all, I wanted to ask for journaling, because you were talking about it. I think most people believe that before I started to have my own journal, get my pieces together, I used to believe that journaling had to be organized, because most times when we see it in a movie, it's one high school girl that has written a lot of things about her crush in the journal, and she keeps it updated time to time. So,
Yeah.
like, is there a particular part? Is there a right way to go about journaling, or you could just do whatever you feel at any point?
I think you can do anything you feel, really. You know, my journal. Let me share something with you. The journal I kept as a 9-year-old, I was documenting. I was documenting insults to 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 take to my bully. Right, I had this bully in school, so I was like, okay, tomorrow when I go, this is what I'm going. This is what I'm going to say to them. This is, that's what I was planning in that journal.
Oh,
And
wow.
of course, yeah, that's what I was doing with it. So it was like, I heard this. So I was walking in the school hallway, and I schooled in Lagos. So the in thing was to insult people in Yoruba. So I was speaking words
Oh,
from from school, then tomorrow I was like, okay, this is the word I learned today. So that I'll document it and meet him and present it to my bully, you know. So there's no particular way to journal. My mother kept a journal. That's some of what I inherited when she passed, or rather, I took it myself when she passed. And her journals had list of things she bought in the market. Yeah, list of things she bought in the market, places she was going to. She kept diaries of places she traveled to. Yeah, who she
yeah.
met and all that. So for me, and this is very important, why I think parents should keep a journal, right?
Mm,
Because the information, pieces of information you will pass and keep for your child,
that's true.
um, for your child that, so I'll get back to that now. For your child that your child may not have, your child may not have access to you down the line, or your grandchild, for instance. So
Oh,
you put it in a way that they can find it. As long as they can find it in a book, or sorry, you can find it and look back and say, oh, this is what happened to me. This is what happened. So if you can do it in an organized looking manner, but really when you do that, you can't really capture it. I believe that when you try to be very composed about your journaling process, you lose a lot of things in the way. Because
mm,
as a creative writer, I know writing is very strategic. So I do both of them. I know writing is very strategic. You create characters, you draw. It's almost like mathematics. You don't just go around writing like that. There's the passionate writing from your heart, but there's also the writing you do straight like that. And to give you an example, there's a movie I watched some years ago, and the person in the movie said, write a good draft with your heart, and then write the second one with your head. So you see, you're writing with your heart because it's unfiltered, right? And that is why you have to go back and do a second draft. So in journaling, I think you should just go with what is in your heart, and you can have a pretty book. Okay.
oh,
So Funmi is
thank
asking,
you.
said, walls. Oh wow. Oh nice. Yeah, he can. I mean, you work for your dad. Yes, you can. That is a journal too. That is a journal. Definitely. Because do you have access to it? Do you still have access to that? To the
Yes,
wall writing?
yes. So
Oh,
in fact,
wow.
I um I planned writing a book around my father's handwriting on the wall. I wrote about that in my memoir. Yeah, I mentioned that briefly about that in my memoir, where my dad used to write on the walls. So almost like every corner of the room, you always see my dad's handwriting on the wall. You go to the kitchen.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's very interesting that my specialty was artistry when I was in the college, when I was in school. And then I know so much about the Stone Age, where there was no invention of paper, papyrus, and all of that. So that time cavemen wrote on the walls. I mean, there were inscriptions like,
Yes.
and all of that. So so each time I look at my dad's handwriting on the wall, it reminds me of, what I read about in history as an art history student and all of that. So some of them were like were warning signs for us, like my child, be very careful, like there were instructions, like every corner, every corner of the room, there's always something to speak to you. So I see them as speaking walls. And I wish that my dad could have published some of his thoughts in a book format, but he never did. But I was able to publish. Yeah, so what he couldn't publish in book, I took some of the words he wrote on the walls, I wrote it in my memoir, I captured them, I put them in my memoir, I published it. Right. So what I plan doing in the long run, so just think about my father's handwriting on the wall. And then I also remember my mom actually wrote something as well. I mean, I think she wrote it in Yoruba language before she died in 2010. And I captured that also as well in my memoir, where she wrote about that we should try to live a life of peace. For her, that was peace is something that is very important to her. And then so that's why for me, I think that resonated with me as a child. And then I don't like dragging things with people. Like when I see that you're coming and then I just try to like stay away. I don't think I have energy for such. So my mom's word resonate and reverberate in my spirit. Conscious the way I engage, the way I socially interact with people. It's better to have peace sometimes than to be right. So your right is very important, but sometimes make sure you don't lose your peace, because when you lose your peace, you have lost everything.
Yes, that is true. That is so true. Thank you for sharing that. That actually, now that you mention it, that is the earliest form of journaling, at least one of the earliest forms, where they wrote on the wall. And somebody told me about a place in Akure, one of the caves in Akure, where their writings from, olden day writings from the 80s and all of that. So that's a form of journaling. And I think the earliest form. And when your book about your dad is that, I really like to read it. Sounds interesting. Halima asked a question. Let me see. Oh, are there journaling apps you can recommend? No, not really. Even if you want to use a journaling app, I think it's best you learn, and it's not so hard. Do you understand? It's not hard to journal. Just get a piece of paper and start. And there's an assignment I'd like you to do. Before I leave, that's what I'd like everyone to do. Yeah, and I will not be on the other side to receive it, but you'll find out that it helps you with the process. Okay, and journaling. Okay, another resource I have is I have a self-care journal, but that's going to be part of my self-care. I'm having a self-care challenge sometime this month. I don't know, but I'll send information about how to subscribe to get details, and it's free. Yeah, but what I'd recommend is that you write every day. Just start a little, and if you have issues with that, you can send me a DM. I'll leave my link for you to subscribe. Write it yourself, because there's something about writing things from hand to paper. Hand to paper, it helps the relief process. And when you study that, then you can decide I need an app. But honestly, I tried the app. After like 3 days, you can't. You cannot follow up. And then I used one. After a while, you're supposed to be like on a long-term subscription or something like that. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Shweta, we've gone far. We're about to finish. So I don't know. Maybe Mr. Kunle, would there be a recording?
Yeah, this is recorded. Okay. So
yeah. So, I think maybe that's what can happen. But any other question?
Do you want to share your handles and some of the things you mentioned? You can share them in the chat.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me see.
And if there are other things that you do, the services and some other things, you can actually mention them here.
Okay. Let me mention before I drop my link. I have a course called Journey Away to Self-Awareness, and that's the course the imposter syndrome lady took with me. The other CD boy he took with me, but his own was on scholarship, because I have two ways I do these things. I have the scholarship bid for people who can afford it, and then the other one for people who can, and people who can't afford it terms as people on the streets, basically. So those are two ways. I have a self-care journal, and the self-care journal, let me see. You find all that the self-care journal teaches you how to document your thoughts, plan your weekly plans, reflect on things that went on well for the week, for the month, for the day. So by the time you use that, it helps your journaling muscles really. And then you have to actually write in it or type into it digitally. So it's there, and the good thing is that it's digital. So it's a 90-day self-care journal. Those are some of our resources. And also to join the free self-care challenge, please try and join in today, because from Monday I'll start sending in the newsletters.
Okay. So I wanted to ask about your book actually, because I saw it online. Demystification of Stephen, or demystifying Stephen, something like that. And I read the short explanation that you put there. I was wondering, how did you even get motivation to write that? Because it really looked like one of those books that you wouldn't be able to leave out once you start to read them. You explained, I think it was between Christy and Stephen, and Christy was trying to find out the life of Stephen and what was behind the whole mysterious rich man. It was actually really good. I just wanted to put out there that you guys could get the book too. So where can we actually get the book? Because I was trying to check online for where to buy or something.
I think she has dropped off the call.
Yes,
right?
I think it's network. Yeah, I should be back on soon.
Okay, all right. Our next speaker is here, and she'll be joining us. She's here already, so she'll be speaking by 4 o'clock. So let's see if Amina is able to join back. Otherwise, we just proceed so that we can maximize the time that we have. Right? Should we wait or proceed?
I think we can wait for like 5 minutes and then proceed with the next.
Five minutes is a lot of time, so we'll wait like 2 minutes. Okay, she's back. Amina, you can speak, please.
Okay, hi. Sorry, the network kind of yeah. So I've just sent for you to subscribe. For Monday, I'll have information about how to join the self-care challenge, also how to get your self-care journal if you're interested in it. But yeah, it helps you plan the week, the day, the month, and then teaches you how to journal too. Helps you exercise through the process. And I just want to say, by way of finishing, that whatever problem you have, mental health problem, is not something you should be ashamed of. Yeah, online there are resources and all of that. And yes, you can send me, when you subscribe to that, you can send me an email, right? Because I'll send you a welcome email, and then you can send me an email if you have any problems you'd like to discuss. This month, I'll be talking 15 minutes free. If I get 5 people from this who want to discuss whatever, don't worry, I keep secrets that you will not believe. So whatever it is that's bothering you, available for free. I'll take 5 people from this class who want to for 30 minutes. So you can just, when you subscribe, I'll send you an email, then you can respond and say, look, you need time to talk about anything. And yeah, I'm available for that. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this. Mental health is well, self-care is so key, because when we talk about mindfulness, it's part of self-care. It's part of looking to yourself, especially mothers on this platform. There's a tendency to look around at other people and forget yourself. Yes, they are important, but think of it this way. If you fall down tomorrow, dead, or God forbid, yeah, dead, what happens, right? So that's it. And I think
Yeah, Amina,
yeah.
I was going to ask you very quickly before Fedoyin closes this session. The link you shared, maybe you can send it to me as well, so that we can share with other people who are not able to make this session. So that way, it's not limited to just people who are here now, but now for other people who registered for this event. And then just send me a line of communication that our team can actually push to the platform where we have other participants as well, so that they get to sign up for the important work that you're doing, so that some of them might be able to receive help in the place of their mental journaling, right? Okay, so thank you very much. If you want to just round up so that we can go to the next session very quickly.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, Amina. I have definitely clicked on that link and I've given my email already. I'm definitely looking forward to the session. Please, you guys make sure that you click on that particular link. So thank you for joining us for this particular session. The next session will be on very, very soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Amina, for this great session. Really appreciate you can see all the responses in the chat. Thank you so much. It was very interactive. I love it. And then when you were asking me to think about that primary 5 pupil in the class, I was wondering what was going through your mind. Like, it's kind of very, very difficult to just go back. And then I remember many, my mind was flooded with memories. Immediately, it's like you opened a tap of memory, like it was just like a flood of events, that happened to me while I was in primary school. The clash in the class, the bullying, the terror of my teachers. I can't wait to go.
You have the terror. You and the Fed were terrors in your class, apparently.
Right.
Nice.
Oh my goodness. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Don't forget to send me the link so that we can populate and share with other people.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, a big thanks also to our wonderful host today, Fedoyin. Thank you so much, Toriken, for being a wonderful host today. Deeply appreciate you. We're moving straight up to the next session now, and our speaker is here, is on mental health as well. I'm going to spotlight her right away. This is it's a research session. You will love this. This is very, very powerful, because this session is born out of research and implementation, some of the things that our speaker today has been doing in Nigeria. In as much as we read papers published by people from the West, we also have we have scholars, we have researchers, we have people who have been doing groundwork in the area of mental health, architecture, urban designing. I mean, it's just fascinating. It's just interesting to see what this amazing young professional has been doing over the years. And then I'm going to spotlight her right away. I see that she's all smart. She's very excited. She can't wait to share. Like, just bring it on. There's no time to check time, right? So I know you're ready. And I'm just going to introduce her very briefly and very quickly as well. So our speaker for this session is no other person than Funmi Akindejoye. Funmi Akindejoye is an artist. She is a researcher, a public health professional, and also a senior Atlantic Fellow for Equity in Brain Health at the Trinity College Dublin from Highland, right? And then so I'm going to be reading her bio very quickly as well. Funmi doubles as an environmental public health professional and a visual artist. She is a senior Atlantic Fellow for Equity in Brain Health and also a nominee of the 2022 Global Metro Dora Award as a mental health person. Funmi is an ESG consultant, certified ISO 1401 lead auditor, and a sustainability excellence associate with focus on sustainability reporting, environmental management, and environmental social impact assessment for multinationals, including World Bank funded projects. She's a big woman. She runs a social enterprise with focus on promoting environmental health and conservation through creativity and education. In 2021, she organized the first art exhibition at the Federal New Psychiatric Hospital Yaba to advocate for green spaces and mental health. Funmi is passionate about mental health and support mental health through green initiative and art. Recently, she conducted a social therapeutic horticultural intervention improving the mental health of seniors in Lagos, Nigeria, creating the first acclaimed vertical wall garden in Nigeria under the Atlantic Institute Solidarity Grant Award. As a visual artist with 10 years of practice, she has participated in several exhibitions, both locally and internationally. In 2015, finalist of the National Art Competition and 2017 Arcade Festival contributor. Funmi current research focuses on the impact of the built environment on mental health using the GAPS framework as she researched through the influence of urban design on mental health in cities in Nigeria, Finland, and currently in Liberia. Make welcome Funmi Akindejoye. Over to you, man.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here. So firstly, I want to say a very big thank you to Mr. Kunle for this opportunity to share my work with you. And as he rightly mentioned, it's this scientific paper, and I hope I can be as interesting as Amina. Amina, thank you for your presentation. I hope to learn more about it. All right, so I'll be sharing my slides and so that we can go straight into the business of the day. So you can confirm if you see my slide.
We can see, not yet, see blank. Okay, see now it's visible.
Okay, but I can see that it's a bit, let's see. I'm trying to enlarge it. Is it like now?
Not yet.
So can you see like the letters on it?
Yes, so but make the slide a full screen. You're using a PowerPoint. Okay. Fantastic, beautiful, brilliant. This is good.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, so today I'll be talking about urban design and mental health, a case study that was carried out in Lagos, Nigeria. While I'm the author of this paper, I also have co-authors, and I want to use this opportunity to recognize them, Dr. Nena Ike and Uchenna Ezedima, as well as the platform on which this paper was published under the Urban Design and Mental Health Center. Also, some of the materials for this presentation was extracted from the center. All right, so as a way of introduction, okay, now how do I move my slides? Okay, perfect. As a way of introduction, I'd love to define mental health according to the World Health Organization. It states that it's a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her potential and can cope with normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, as well as can contribute to his or her community. Now, you may wonder what is the relationship between urban design and mental health. I will be speaking in two fronts here: how urban health affects, how the city affects mental health, as well as how mental health affects the city. Now, globally, 1 out of every 4 persons has a mental health condition globally. But when it comes to a city, it is recorded that there are more cases of mental health problems, over 40% higher for depression and over 20% more for anxiety. Now, some of the factors that result in this is due to social factors as well as environmental factors. Social factors are pre-existing factors. What I mean by pre-existing factors is the reason why most people migrate to cities, to urban areas, is because of maybe they want to improve their lifestyle, or gain better way of living and make more money. So persisting conditions like poverty, like maybe poor education. So these as well can influence one's mental health. Also, environmental factors such as, for example, there is an overload. When I say an overload in cities, I mean, in cities you have more persons that, or rather, people are more exposed to noise, people are more exposed to air pollution, people are more exposed to, agitated people, right? So these on its own affects people's mental health. But if you do a comparison between cities and urban areas, rural areas, you realize that exposure to air pollution, noise, and maybe what have you, is not as much as you have in cities. Then also you have what I would call an erosion of the protective factors. So when you go to cities, you realize that you really don't have access as much to green spaces. You don't have access as much to maybe the freedom of exercises or farm or garden or what have you, because most of the spaces have been used up for maybe commercialized. So there is this erosion of protective spaces, such as parks, green spaces. It's as little as you can, it's like more reduced in cities. Then now, how does mental health affect the city? I have here direct causes and indirect causes. For direct causes, you have issues such as the cost of care. You find that if you have more people with mental health situation in a country or city, the government tends to spend more to care for. So the budget for healthcare increases for mental people, for mental health cases, right? Then also there is an increase in mortality, which of course reduces the productivity and the GDP of that country or of that city. Then also physical health problems. You realize that most times when people have mental health conditions, it's deteriorated to some sort of physical health problems as well, maybe cardiac condition or some sort of mental health issues, physical health problems as well. Then indirect costs could be personal costs. When one has mental health conditions, they tend to spend more on carers, drugs, and of course this reduces the person's income as well as standard of living. Maybe the person is not able to save as much. So you see, generally, that kind of drops the general financial situation of the city. Also, informal carers. So informal carers here refer to maybe family members or close relatives that would result wanting to take care of their loved ones with mental health issues. In the same way, that reduces the number of hours they spend at work. So of course, that reduces their productivity and the general wage of that city. Employment, I think, is totally related to what I just mentioned. When one has a mental health, maybe someone with a mental health condition at home, or one is mentally unstable, that would affect their potential of being employable. Then homelessness, it's been recorded that over 30 to 35% of homeless people have mental health conditions. So homelessness, of course, creates some sort of, permit me to use the word nuisance in the society. When people are homeless, they tend to want to be violent. They kind of create some sort of safety risks to other people, if you agree with me. So these are ways in which mental health affects the city and how the city affects mental health. So as a way of introduction, when Mr. Kunle was reading my short introduction, he made mention of the GAPS framework. And so I'd love to mention it here. The GAPS framework is a tool, I would call it, that has been used to be used by professionals, especially architects, city planners, and what have you, in considering mental health into the way they build, into the way they develop and strategize in building and developing a city. Now, I'll take them quickly. So you have G, of course, is for green spaces, places. And now green places refer to natural habitats where you have vegetation, you have green parks, you have gardens. These are all green spaces. And these are things that should be considered when we want to be a resilient and sustainable city. Also, active places. So active places here would refer to places where one could interact, meet other people, socialize, and carry out daily routines to help improve their mental health and social life. Also, would love to consider pro-social space and social places. I think I mixed them up. So for active places, really, it talks about active transportation. These are things that are actively contribute to the composition of a city. Also such active places affect mental health, daily way of living, because you agree with me that transportation is daily for everybody. So we all interact with transport. For social spaces, as I mentioned earlier, for active places, it's actually places where you could meet up with people, integrate, and also make new friends, and you could also potentially vulnerable groups like refugees, migrants, young people, old people can also actively meet there. So you have places like parks as well. These are things that should be considered when we build. So safe places is also another one. So I term that safety and security, like the little features such as street lights, such as non-motorized transportation, where people that are cyclists or pedestrians can go on. These are things that are important, makes people feel safer in a city, and of course improves their mental health. Now, what does mental health look like in Lagos? From a few literature review that was done, mental health Lagos was associated with high levels of stress and exhaustion, especially around daily commuting. Then also, if you're a Lagosian, you will agree with me. Then also, it was also associated with a lot of environmental stress on mental health, such as disorders, especially, I think the most common form of mental health problem that I discovered from the literature review that I did, it's anxiety and depression. Also, there were records of insomnia, that is a lack of sleep, is a common symptom of anxiety and depression as well. And that has been linked to sleep disruption due to early hours of commuting in Lagos. Also, Lagos Mental Health Survey shows that the prevalence of depression and generalized anxiety was between 5.5 to 3.5 respectively. Access to mental health services is limited. Of course, it's not proportionate. Some people have access to it, some don't. It's expensive, and it's scarcely frequented because people have several beliefs about mental health issues, whilst there is also stigmatization. Also, for some of these facilities that are available, sometimes we have inadequate funding, and also, as I mentioned, misconception and the cultural context in Lagos State generally. Now, what is the general urban design in Lagos? Now, Lagos is the commercial city of Nigeria, and As a result, it's being pressured with a lot of influx of people. People are coming into Lagos, people are migrating into Lagos to do business and all that. So these factors put a lot of pressure on the infrastructure of the city. So the housing is pressured, transportation is pressured. You have, I think I saw a report that says over 1 million people come into Lagos daily. That's subject to further findings, but yeah, the figure may be really high. So that's what Lagos is about. So recently, or not so recently, in 2013, there was a document, a policy document that was passed by the Lagos State Development. It's called the Lagos State Development Plan 2025. So it is aimed at making Lagos a sustainable and resilient city by 2025. So what has this policy done so far? So it says it's envisioned Lagos to be Africa's model megacity that is resilient, that is safe, that is sustainable, secure, and productive by 2025. Now, it was observed that out of the 10 planning areas in the city, only 50% have a master plan in use, while others were never used the plan, or the plan was out of date. So this tells us that is either the Lagos State Development Plan is failing, or doesn't take into consideration a lot of mental health conditions or situations, or it never gave premise or consideration to mental health issues while this plan was being made. Now, going through my study, I'll run you through the method and also basically the objective of the study. By now, you should know is basically to investigate the fundamental elements and factors of urban design that influences mental health in Lagos State. Now, what we did basically was to carry out a literature review. So going through secondary data from brown papers, newspaper publications, past studies. So after that, we obtained primary data from interviews using semi-structured interview guide. And the way we got at respondents was through snowballing. So snowballing basically is, I would say it's a convenient way of sampling, because we were looking for specific people, and it was such that only professionals refer to professionals. So after one interview, you want to ask the professional you interviewed, do you know any other professional like yourself? So we snowballed the sampling size. So 10 Lagos-based professionals were interviewed, including 3 architects, 2 public health specialists, and so on. And this was done around this time last year, between April, May 2021, and was done via Zoom, of course, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which was intense as at then. These were recorded, transcribed also, and we did a thematic analysis to, analyze or extract these factors and elements that affects urban design that affect mental health in Lagos State. So we'll go straight into the results. Now, the results is divided into 4 parts. So you have the urban design factors considered to influence mental health, and also you have factors considered to contribute to levels of prioritization of mental health in urban planning and design in Lagos. Firstly, I'll take this and go back to the audience. Now, I know you shouldn't be surprised if you see reliable public transportation and traffic reduction if you're a Lagosian, or if you've once lived in Lagos or have read about Lagos. Now, this was one team that was really outstanding during the research. It resonated with every one of our respondents. They talked about transportation over and over again, and a few suggestions and solutions were provided as well. I can't go really deep into it. I would post the link to the paper. You could go and further read on it to get a really broad view of what people said and didn't say. All right, so we have availability of adequate and affordable housing. This was also one key factor that was mentioned, adequate and affordable, because we've had cases over and over again of building collapse. We've also had cases of people being ejected from wherever they stayed. So these were all issues that were raised. And electricity supply, homelessness, access to adequate housing, fear of forceful eviction. I think these are all themes under housing. So in time past, it's been recorded that I'm trying to remember the name of these group of people that were evicted. But over time, if you read the Lagos State, if you read some of the trajectory of how people have been forcefully evicted, you see that this has taken place over and over again, where thousands of people lose their homes due to one form of government reform or the other. So access to public spaces is also another one. So you have a couple of public spaces in Lagos, right? But one thing we realize is that most of them are not accessible, or it's either they're located in places where you won't just wake up one early morning and say you are going to government house to go to the, there is a park at Alausa. It's too formal a setting. It's close to the government house. You won't just wake up and say you are going there. So where these buildings or where these infrastructures are placed matters a lot also. And also one peculiar one is there is a park on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. I really don't know who goes there, but it seemed like, what's it called? A leisure park, but for me, it's not situated in the right place. Also, availability of and access to green and blue spaces. So blue spaces here refer to water bodies. So you have a lot of beaches in Lagos, thankfully, but are they accessible? Available? Are they accessible? So availability of walkways, sidewalks, safety and security, wetland. Let's move quickly. So factors to consider that makes us think that is mental health being prioritized in Lagos or not? So it says a prioritization of economic gain. So because most times we prioritize economic gain, how much are we going to make from this? What's the profit? You just tend to build because you want to make money. Oh, if you build a 4-story building, you are going to make more money than building just one floor. People don't really put into consideration because everybody is about the money. Of course, lack of policy enforcement by lawmakers. So you see a lot of land encroachment. You see a lot of people building on wetlands. And in the previous Lagos plan, maybe 20 years ago, these were places that were conserved. But unfortunately, they're being developed. Lack of awareness and education. Yes, stigmatization and people being misinformed is another reason why we don't see mental health being prioritized in our urban design. And of course, non-motorized transportation policy advocacy. This is one of the only positive things we see in prioritizing mental health in urban design, because there is a group that is advocating currently for the non-motorized transportation policy in Lagos, Nigeria. Kudos to them. These are just like a picture grid from the results that we found. Later, I will tell you about how these public arts affect and improve the mental health of Lagosians. One positive thing also about the city of Lagos. All right, so barriers identified for implementing mental health in urban design in Lagos. There are a lot of barriers, but we're going to take a few. So of course, we mentioned, perception. This perception here has to do with our leaders, government. So most times our leaders feel like development is about brick and mortar. You feel like, oh, you just build one skyscraper and you feel that, oh, this place is so developed. But it's not really true. Is it sustainable? Does it make the city resilient? Does it make the people happy around it? If you had built a set of bunkers, you might have been building skyscraper, So I mentioned about poor policy enforcement, then lack of applicable policies. Sometimes you have these policies, but they are not visible. They are not implementable. Then also so we need a policy review. Then lack of impact evaluation. Okay, so you can have buildings, they might be good, they might not be good, but you would never know if you don't carry out an evaluation on it, if you don't know, okay, so how does this project impact the people it's been meant to impact, right? So if there is no impact assessment, if you just keep building without evaluating, then it's a sad case, because figures are important, data is important, because that's the only way you are able to improve on what you've already done. And this is one thing that we see lacking in the Lagos urban design sector. Then prioritization of economic gain. I think that's a big barrier. We've already made mention of that. Excessive land reclamation and encroachment. This is a sad factor because that's what we see everywhere. And if you notice, you see a lot of flooding going on in Lagos. It's not just, it didn't just happen, voila, you know, it's a build-up of what people practice that professionals have been doing. Professionals and non-professionals have been doing over the years, right? So building on the water channels, you know, so these are things that block these pathways and unfortunately resulting in flooding. So misinformation and lack of awareness about mental health is another issue. Then education of professionals. Now, I'd love to dwell a bit on this because sometimes we realize that professionals, especially maybe architects, policy planner makers, urban designers, geographers, and what have you, they are being trained in the technical aspect of their profession. But I think it's important to bring the psychosocial aspect of what they do. So nobody really tells them about the social impact of what they're doing. They are never really trained in the social impact of, you know, the buildings or the plan they're making or the policies or the city or local government they're designing. All they know is the technical aspect, right? So these are things that should be in place. They should be well educated and informed. All right, so what are the suggested opportunities for implementing urban design for mental health? So these are probably things that we could pick and learn from. So it says here, building the new Lagos sustainably. Now there's a new Lagos, as we all know, on Echo Atlantic. Although some of us do not support it, but if it's done the right way, I think it will make a great deal of difference. Unfortunately, from what I can see, it's really meant for the high class people, which of course isn't sustainable, right? So I pray that they do better. So we also have public-private partnerships. This could also help the way we build, right? Because in a situation whereby the private sector comes in, you know, to support governments, I think our projects, infrastructures will be taken seriously. What I mean is maintenance culture will improve and increase because, you know, it's not just a government thing, but the private sector will put in more effort to make it work. So strategies from the 100 Resilient Cities project. So before now, I think by the Rockefeller Foundation, Nigeria or Lagos specifically was part of one of the cities, 100 cities that were chosen by Rockefeller Foundation to carry out the 100 Resilient Cities project. But unfortunately, that project was stopped. But still, there are strategies, there are documents in place, there are research that have gone on already that we can build on. So mental health education and awareness at all levels for professionals, for lay people, everybody needs to be informed because you hear cases of old people maybe that wandered away and you hear them say, oh, it's a spiritual thing. You know, so we need to educate people more about mental health, right? Then waterways transportation. Yes, utilization of the waterways is one way also to improve the transportation of Lagos. Although the waterways kind of work, but people are not so confident in it because of safety issues, so we can improve on that. And of course, the global agreements such as the SDGs are ways in which you can leverage on making Lagos a better place to improve our mental health. Then also decentralization. Decentralization is very important because Lagos seems to be the commercial hub. But if we are able to disperse this attraction or activities in Lagos to other states in the country, it will make the influx of people into Lagos reduce, right? So if you have the port in Calabar is not working, the port in Port Harcourt is not working, the port in Delta State is not working, just Lagos. So that's why you see people coming into Lagos. If we are able to replicate these kind of activity, have headquarters of some multinationals in other places, people will definitely go there. So yes, decentralization is very important. And also, so a SWOT analysis was done from this study. So basically the strengths, the opportunities, and strengths as well as weaknesses of the urban design in Lagos State as it affects mental health. I'll quickly run through them. So factors that contribute to mental health. So that is like the strength. It talks about reliable public traffic. Okay, not really the strength, but these are just factors. I'll go straight to, okay, so this talk generally on what can make the city better. So if we improve on our transportation, reliable public transportation, this would help the mental health situation in Lagos. Adequate housing will also help. Then access to public spaces, availability and access to green and blue spaces. If, for example, I think I went to the beach maybe a year or so ago and they were charging, it wasn't the private beach, it was the other one, and it was charging like 2,000. And I was like, it's not, it's available, but it's not accessible to all, right? So NMT, non-motorized transportation for cyclists, for pedestrians, people walking, is very important to create some form of safety and security. Now, what are the opportunities? I mentioned this earlier, I'll just browse through it. So we said public-private partnership, mental health education, waterways transportation, global agreement, incorporation of mental health in already existing agencies, and factors, prioritization, of course, factors influences prioritization of mental health in urban design. Okay, so I briefly want to talk about client preference. So sometimes why architects, some of them know about this sustainability thing, but if your client gives you a plan that this is how I want my house to be built, there is no way you go ahead and change it, right? So client preference group can be a barrier or an hindrance to people prioritizing building for mental health. And also you have, for the barriers, I think we already mentioned this for the sake of time. So in conclusion, what are the recommendations? I think it's a reputation, basically. So we said mental health awareness and reorientation, provision of adequate and affordable housing schemes. I think recently there was this news going around that the state government wanted to make the rent in housing monthly. That would have been a good one, but I don't know how far they went with that. Then expansion of public transportation, policy development, enforcement, of course, decentralization, then multidisciplinary collaboration. So in cases where people have not been educated in the psychosocial aspects, just the technical aspect of they have the technical aspect of their education, but they don't know the social impact of their practice. You can have a multidisciplinary team come together. Oh, you have an artist, you have a public health person, you have a psychologist, you have an architect. They come together to plan the city or plan the house or the development or whatever project they're working on. So investment in professional education on mental health, as mentioned as well. So briefly, I want to talk about Mentalpedia. So we had an art exhibition to showcase results of this study at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba. And then thanks to the Arts in Medicine project in collaboration with them, we had myself and 3 other artists, because I'm an artist as well. So yeah, so we had an exhibition to showcase results of this study. So what we did was we created a body of work based on the abstract of the study. So these are some of the highlights of the exhibition we had. And okay, I'll be taking you briefly through some of the works. So these were some of the works. So basically this work talks about traffic and how it can disorient the human man in Lagos. And also this talks about the non-motorized transportation. If we give opportunity for people to, ride the bicycle, walk in where they have the platform, permit me to use the word, to do that, it would be great. That would improve their mental health. Now, this is a piece, this was from me. Then this is a piece from Israel. So basically, he talked about here green spaces as well as the use of the waterways as a form of transportation in Lagos. And this is Israel. pardon me, this is something. Something talked about the price of happiness, what we are able to pay for happiness in Lagos State. And of course, hello? Hello? Can you confirm you can?
iPhone, yeah. Are you done now?
All right, yeah, so I was just on the last slide, basically showing you a picture of the last, or not, rather not the last, one of the artists, where she told a story about the COVID-19 and the impact of it to her mental health. So yeah, basically that's a summary of my presentation, and thank you so much for listening. I'm open to questions and then contributions, suggestions. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Funmi. Please let's appreciate Funmi for this incredible scientific presentation. Wonderful mental health. I mean, some of us must have heard so much about mental health, but this is mental health on a different level, because like investigating what really lead to mental health breakdown, right? But looking at it from the dimension of urban design, right? Which I think is very, very crucial, very, very, very important. So we have opportunity to ask the researcher here the question. If you do have question for regarding some of the research she has been doing around about urban design, and also some of the initiatives that she has been working on. So I'm going to ask you this question while we're waiting for other people to ask you questions. So I'm going to ask you this, with what you're doing, with the research you're doing, especially in the area of urban design and mental health. So how, in terms of implementation and also implementation, and how you connect with the people in government, what's your plan?
Okay, so I think one thing straight away that we're able to do is my team and I, because currently we're having this project being done in Liberia, Monrovia, the capital of Liberia, and we want to turn it into a curriculum, right, to train actors in this field. So when I say actors, I mean people in government, like architects, urban planners, policymakers, designers, geographers. So that is our first call. So we want to do some, create a curriculum out of this and train them, because permit me to talk about Liberia. It's had these ups and downs and wars and everything. They are currently building, so it's a fertile ground to carry out such intervention. Yeah.
Wonderful. Few things have been said in the chat, and I will just read that. According to Dana Abasi, she said a well-researched paper. I hope someone in government can pay attention and implement some of your suggestions for urban design in Lagos. It would be great to have platforms to ride bicycles safely in Lagos. I hope so. I hope so. A lot of us don't even realize that anxiety is a mental health issue. It is a big mental health issue, right? If you do have more questions, let's ask. Esther Sule Okugo says that about urban design and mental health, we would have thought things affect us and we are unaware. That is very true, man. Very, very true. Sometimes we feel like it's just about the building, but even there's a way the building affects our mental well-being. There's a way we arrange even our furnitures in the room that affect our mental health, right? So these are strong areas we really need to pay attention to. If you do have a question for Funmi, she's still here. You can still ask your question. We'll be closing shortly. Yeah, if you have a question for her, please do ask. Otherwise, we will just close this session and get ready for our session in the evening with community project and also films. So today there's a film on mental health. I think we are screening about 3 or 4 films today on mental health. About four. So it's been mental health in the morning. We had the inspirational time around mental health, especially for the children and young people with disability. And now this afternoon, we've done something on journaling through mental health. and finding ways of expressing ourselves through mindfulness and creative writing, right? And now we just had a session with Funmi on urban design and mental health. Incredible, well-researched presentation. Thank you so much. So much. And then boom. And then later in the evening today, there is also during the community project, there will be there is what do you call it now? Community project on mental health. I think one of the presenters is doing something on the project she did at Makoko in the slum, and with children that are autistic. Right, that is very interesting. You can see the line of communication around mental health. And then later in the evening, we are going to be seeing the films, 3 or 4 films on mental health. Yesterday was fireworks. The film were thought-provoking. Like literally, you want to stand up and do something just through the film that we screened yesterday. We can't wait to see all of you join us again. And then I'm going to ask Funmi for our last word. What do you have to say, Funmi, finally?
Okay. First, I want to say a very big thank you to you for the opportunity to share my work. And also to say that, yes, it's good that people are becoming aware of the impact of urban design and mental health. And I just love to say that I would encourage young people, Nigerians, to take advantage of data. Data is very important. And, you can do a lot with data. With the data that we have, we can advocate. With the data that we have, we can build systems. And so, yeah, thank you very much.
A big thanks to Funmi. We would like to take a picture with our speaker today. If you don't mind putting on your camera, please do so we can take a nice picture with her, please. Thank you. Please put on your camera, please. Please smile. If you don't smile, we'll just Photoshop you come out. Thank you so much, Funmi, for this wonderful session. Such a privilege to hear your thoughts and also to see the scientific angle to this National Art and Health Week. Is very good. We're seeing that not just the painting, the drawing, the connection, but then also looking at what researchers are doing. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your great work. We're very grateful and thankful to you. Thank you so much for all everyone that joined us this afternoon, for being present. We really appreciate you. Have a wonderful evening and see you later. Bye.